Twin cam 88s are not bad motors, but if you're looking at a used one, there's just a couple of things you might want to be aware of and take into consideration before you take the plunge and buy a used Harley with the twin cam 88. So before we get too far into the video today, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. The 88 is a very solid platform, whether you want to just cruise with it or you actually want to do a little hot rodding and hop it up a little bit. Either way, there's just a few things that you want to look at to make sure that you maintain the reliability of the engine and your used motorcycle doesn't become a nightmare. If you're looking at an 88, the first thing you want to consider, and you probably already know what I'm going to say, is to check the cam chain tensioners. What I mean by checking the cam chain tensioners is if you're buying a used bike, hopefully the owner has documentation proving that they've been checked or at least replaced. And if not, if you're going to go ahead and buy the bike, make sure you do it yourself. From 1999 to 2006, Harley-Davidson used a spring-loaded cam chain tensioner, which actually put too much pressure on the tensioner shoes up against the cam chain. Now, the original intent of this design was that these shoes would last probably upwards of 30,000 miles, being the best case scenario. Due to the pressure of the spring, very rapid wear occurred, and failures were starting to happen as early as 15,000 miles. The plastic shoes were wearing out quickly, and actually pieces of these plastic shoes were going into the engine and blocking the oil passages and basically grenading the motor, so you can imagine how pretty that was. So if you're buying a used 88, either make sure they have documentation that they've been checked or replaced, or if you go ahead and buy it, tear it down yourself, inspect the inner and outer cam chain tensioners. Now this didn't happen to every single 88-inch motor that ever came out of Harley-Davidson, but then at the same time, they weren't exactly isolated incidents. Don't risk it. It's a lot cheaper to take it somewhere, having them inspected or replaced, or do it yourself, whether you're inspecting them and replacing them. Some bikes went 60,000 miles and never had an issue. Now, as far as solutions for this problem, S&S and Andrews have a cam plate that allows you to use gear-driven cams, which is great. I mean, this completely eliminates the tensioner and all the problems associated with it. But the issue with going to the gear-driven cams in one of these sets is that your pinion shaft runout has to be at 3 thousandths or less. If it's any more than that, those gears are going to walk, your cams are going to get out of alignment, and bad things are going to happen. Another alternative to the gear-driven cams is Screamin Eagle has a cam plate that actually has a more modern hydraulic tensioner. And also with that hydraulic tensioner, it comes with an upgraded high-volume oil pump, which is also going to help to cool down the motor and take some of the heating issues out that the twin cams are known for. Now, even with the hydraulic cam chain tensioner, it's not a foolproof design. It just kind of takes the failure point and kicks it down the road a little longer. We're looking at 50 to 75,000 miles. And now this isn't to say that it's going to happen to every motorcycle. There's plenty of twin cams out there that have gone well over up to 100,000 miles or more and never had a cam chain tensioner issue. Now 88s are quite unique in a way, is that in the early years of production from 1999 to 2002, the 88 bottom ends actually used the Timken bearing setup on both sides. The Timken roller bearing setup reduced the shaft wobble that you would get, especially when you started hopping these motors up and putting some power to them. And this is true with any twin cam engine. Although the later ones, they did away with the dual Timken bottom end in 2003. So from 1999 to 2002, you've got the dual Timken bearing, so that's a plus for those older bikes. Now from 2003 to 2006, Harley-Davidson had a great idea to save some money on production and assembly costs. So to save time and money in assembly costs, Harley-Davidson started casting the two case halves, with the left side having a cylindrical roller bearing already installed in the case. So all they had to do was slide it down onto the sprocket shaft. This is a perfectly fine design as long as the engine's stock and maybe you have a stage 1. But if you go to start adding some high lift cams for a stage 2, or you do a big bore kit and you start putting some serious power into this motor, you're going to have that shaft wobble, and it's basically going to destroy the motor in no time flat. From 2003 up on the twin cam, not just the 88, they were this way through the entire production run, all the way till the Milwaukee 8 came out. They had this cylindrical roller main bearing on the sprocket shaft. So just about any Screamin Eagle kit you buy, they're going to require you to go ahead and upgrade to the Timken bearing, which is going to basically take you back to what Harley used to put in there when they had a more solid bottom end. I know it makes a lot of sense, right? But anyhow, let's take a look at a twin cam 88, see what our base horsepower is. Let's get an idea of what you can do with it. So the only big bore kit that Harley-Davidson offers for the twin cam 88 is the 95 cubic inch bolt-on kit. This takes your 1450cc 88 inch twin cam to a 95 inch 1550cc twin cam engine. Now it comes with the big bore cylinders, the big bore flat top pistons, rings, Screamin Eagle 203 cam, a top end gasket, and a heavy duty clutch spring. You also get a high flow air filter. Now the twin cam 88, it wasn't a major horsepower producer, but it did produce a fairly decent torque stock. It produced some really good torque with the 95 inch kit on it. So stock, we're looking at about, 58, 59 horsepower. Our stock torque comes in at 70 foot-pounds on the button. Now after the 95 inch kit's installed and properly tuned, we're looking at about 80, 81 horsepower. Now torque's where the real star of the show on this kit. We're up here to almost 100 foot-pounds of torque, about 96, 97 foot-pounds of torque. And with proper tuning and a good exhaust system, I wouldn't be surprised to see some higher numbers than what they're advertising here. Now as I mentioned earlier in the video, Harley-Davidson did offer an upgrade for those spring-loaded cam chain tensioners. It's the Screamin Eagle hydraulic cam chain tensioner and high flow oil pump kit. This is a wonderful upgrade. Every 88 should have at least this on it. You get a higher flow oil pump, plus you get the hydraulic cam chain tensioners, which are going to push your failure point to probably 50 to 75,000 miles. Also mentioned earlier in the video was the complete gear-driven camshaft upgrade that S&S offers. Now, it is quite expensive, but it'll completely eliminate the problem. But like I said, also, the other issue with this is that you have to make sure that your shaft run out is a maximum of 3 thousandths. It's got to be less than 3 thousandths. Now, while this completely eliminates that problem, like I said, it carries a pretty hefty price tag compared to just upgrading with the Screamin Eagle cam plate and going with the hydraulic tensioners and the upgraded oil pump. In my opinion, if you can afford it, it's worth the extra $1,500 to go ahead and put the gear-driven cam set in there. So the Twin Cam 88 is not a bad engine by any length of the means. It just has a few little issues that need to be corrected to make sure the bike's reliable and it's going to serve you well for many years to come. Now that may look like a lot of money to throw at an old used motorcycle, but you can make a Harley-Davidson last forever. And if you do your own work, this is completely worth it. You could price a used one versus these upgrades to going out and buying a brand new Harley. The price of these parts, that would pretty much be a month or two's payment on a new Harley-Davidson. And as I said before, this doesn't happen to every single bike. But if you buy an 88, don't risk it. Check those cam chain tensioners or have them inspected by somebody. It's very important. You don't want to grenade this motor. Now with the cost of the parts and upgrades, I know that might seem like a lot, but have you priced a new Harley-Davidson today? But Twin Cam 88s too, depending on what you buy, you have an option of either carbureted or fuel injected, depending on the model, depending on the year. There's even some of the Screamin Eagle editions still floating around out there that already have the 95-inch upgrade on them and all the goodies in them. Kind of funny, the 95-inch upgraded ones, they already had that Screamin Eagle cam chain tensioner set in there with the high volume oil pump. But guys, if you're looking at a used Twin Cam 88, these are just some things I wanted to throw out there to make you aware of. So don't be scared of them. Just make sure you check them over real good. And it's even better if you do your own work. That just makes that used bike an even better deal, because the 88s are going really cheap these days. So guys, be sure to tune in next week. I'm going to have the history of the Twin Cam engine. We're going to see where this engine started out at and how it came to be as we know it today. But anyhow guys, that's all I've got for you in this video. Stay safe riding, and I'll catch you guys next week.